This one calls for a coffee, a tea, a water, because we have a lot to discuss today. I've been having a lot of chit chats with friends, and I've also been seeing videos here on YouTube and on TikTok. And it kind of seems like all of us are experiencing this collective feeling of uneasiness because, straight up, everything seems very uncertain. The job market seems unstable, the economy is going up and down. It seems like it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a girly or a guy with a traditional 9 to 5, maybe you do gig work or freelancing, you're experiencing the shifts. Plain and simple, a lot of us are burned out and we're starting to question things. Maybe you're questioning your career, maybe you're questioning your time, how you spend your time, who you spend your time with. You're questioning if you should move back home, if you should move abroad. It's slightly chaotic. It's definitely a collective feeling, and I just don't want you to feel alone or to feel like you are a failure. There are some tips and tricks that have been helping me, and quite honestly, I just believe that when you don't know what to do, the best thing that you can do is pursue yourself. So let's get into point one. I kind of want to dive deeper into why everyone feels so lost right now. I think the number one elephant in the room is the fact that nothing is certain. Nothing is certain and nothing is stable. The most frustrating part is the fact that, especially if you're a 9 to 5 girly, you're seeing that there are mass layoffs happening. You could have been like me who experienced a mass layoff. And it's one of those things where it's out of your control, but you can't help but feel personally attacked. One of the sayings that I've been living by and that's been helping me out is the fact that if it is out of my control, I am not going to worry about it. Once I have a roof over my head, once I have food to eat, everything else will be figured out in its own divine timing. And I know it's easier said than done. I know some of us have responsibilities. I know that you log into your bank account and you're seeing the numbers that you're seeing. I know that you're applying for income sources and you don't even know if a human is seeing your application. Maybe you're a freelance girly like me and you're pitching and you're trying to get your clientele and no one's writing you back. Your emails go into the abyss. Trust me, felt. But what are we going to do about it? Even when you're in the thick of it, I think it's important to remind yourself that you are one email, one phone call, one text message away from your life changing, or from you receiving an offer, or a client wanting to work with you, or a company wanting to work with you. And I'm saying this confidently, knowing that I still have my moments. There's still a day or two where I'm just like, how is this going to work out? When is this going to work out, right? Then I snap myself out of it because it's just like me worrying about a situation before it has occurred doesn't make any sense. I think it's so important to keep your mind clear. When you have a clear mind, you're able to fill out the applications with confidence. You're able to pitch with confidence. You're able to show up to an interview because you will get the interview. You can be the most confident version of yourself in the interview as opposed to seeming desperate. I kind of wish someone would have told me this a year ago, 2 years ago, because I was that girly who would overthink and stress and obsess over a situation. And it is true, you can get a lot done in 6 months. You can literally accelerate 3 years of your life in a year or 6 months if you grind, put your head down, and do the work. I understand hustle culture all too well. Now, I'm not saying not to do anything, to throw in the towel, like, no. Give yourself some space in between, whether you're studying, applying for income sources, trying to advance in your career, whatever the situation is, you literally have to give your body and your mind time to reset. And trust me, it is not easy. All of that is deep work. It takes time, it takes energy, but I'm grateful that I didn't have to do it alone. Therapy was one of those tools that helped me to lay out my next steps, my blueprint essentially. I didn't want to keep talking about the same thing over and over with the people around me. And honestly, not everyone deserves to know like the nitty gritty details of what you have going on in your life. Therapy really became that outlet for me. And over time, I was able to get more strong and more clear about my next steps. And I don't know how I would have made it through, to be quite honest with you, because it was a rough time. Which brings me to the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Now, I know with things already being complicated, I love the fact that BetterHelp makes it easy to get started on your therapy journey. You take a quiz and you're matched with a licensed therapist quickly. I also like the fact that you can communicate with a therapist in a way that feels comfortable for you. So maybe you don't want to have a video call. You can communicate through messages or through a phone call. So if you're navigating burnout, uncertainty, or you're not sure what your next step should be, or maybe you just need a space to talk things through, therapy may be a good place to start. You can click the link in my description, or you can go to BetterHelp/Amina for 10% off your first month of therapy. I say this all the time, you cannot compare yourself to the next person. You don't know what they went through to get what they have. You don't know what they're going through. A lot of people only post their highlight reels, and even if they don't, what works for one person may not work for you, and that is completely okay. I think a lot of people feel lost right now because straight up, the old blueprint is not working. We know that you went to school for a trade, you went to school for a specific career, you learned everything about set career, set trade. You went out into the job market, you applied for a job, you got the job, you worked the job, you're retired. Done. And I'm not going to lie to you, as a girly who's a strong advocate for entrepreneurship and freelance work, having time and freedom and autonomy over your life, that sounds real good right about now, okay? Who wouldn't want to work in a career or in a position where they know they can retire from? It's secure, you can live comfortable. We all want that. But unfortunately, that is not how the world works. And right now, I think one of the ways that we are going to push through this season is to have multiple streams of income, multiple things going on. It brings me to point two. When it comes to pursuing yourself, you one have to reconnect with yourself, reconnect with who you really are. Getting laid off or having unfair advantages forces you to look at yourself, your personality, your wants, and your needs. One of the things I was able to do during that period of time was realize how much energy I gave to a job, how much energy I gave to a position. I allowed that to define me, and I realized there's so many skills and gifts and talents, like not trying to brag, but like gifts and talents and skills that I had that I was not using in set position. And you may be the same. I always feel like one's zone of genius is between what they're good at, things that people ask them for advice on, skills that they may have picked up along the way, and just general interest. And we can talk more about that maybe in another video, but I really had to dig deep and think about my zone of genius. I also think the journey of pursuing myself made me question what energizes me. Like, what is something that I can do, talk about for hours and not get tired? What genuinely lights me up? When you're working in one avenue, one realm, you tend to excel or jump between companies in that position. And I didn't really question it, right? Because when you're good at something, when it's easy to get a position or you just fit into a mold, you don't think that you're meant for more or you have more to offer. Or maybe it's just me. But you live and you learn, and maturity is one hell of a thing. That being said, question yourself. Use this time to question yourself. Which brings me to my next point. You are allowed to pivot. If something is not working, you have to change it to get different results. And I think a lot of the time we think that if we give up, it's an ego thing too. It's definitely an ego thing where we think if we give up or if we change directions, we have failed, or you want to see it through. And sometimes, yes, you do have to persevere, right? Sometimes you do have to keep going. But like I mentioned before, you may have to switch directions. You may have to get into freelancing, have a side gig going, start a business, start a content creation journey. I know there's this push and pull conversation where everyone talks about not monetizing your gifts or not everything is meant to be monetized. And I feel that. I do think you have to have something for yourself, whether that's the gym, whether that's creating, writing, making music. Have things for yourself, yes, but your zone of genius, that might entail your gifts or your talents or your skills. That might be something that you temporarily monetize or you can teach other people to do. Like, we are in the creator economy, the boom of it. And despite everything that's happening, there are still people who are making a full time living, or at least they're able to have an additional stream of income based off of a skill, a talent, or a gift that they have. Everyone's situation is different. And I think where it becomes tricky is when you're burned out or you fall out of love with the thing. And that's why I kind of like to look at my life or myself as an umbrella, right? So you have the stem, like where you hold the umbrella, and there's multiple wires that connect to this big dome. I don't know if that analogy makes sense, but it's kind of like you are allowed to have multiple things going on. Like, yes, there's only so much time in the day. So, like, let's not get it confused. But that's why some things are passive, like a YouTube channel, like a blog, or another example. And I'm sure in your city you may have these too. You have people that sell at farmers markets, and that's only on Saturdays and Sundays. They bake bread, pastries, crafts, and all of the things. And then Monday through Friday, they have their 9 to 5. Another avenue with that, if you're a crafty person, you make something or you have a product, you put it on Etsy, you put it on Shopify or one of those websites, and you drive traffic to the website, you sell the item, you ship the item. That is somewhat passive. I think right now, how a lot of us are going to win is to think outside of the box, not compare yourself, not say, well, someone else is doing that. Think about the gap in that market. Think about the gap or the thing that you see that's missing. Think about your skills, your talents, and make an executive decision and go for it. That's the only way to build self trust over time. It's taking the action. So it's starting the business, it's going to therapy, it's literally pursuing yourself. And another part of pursuing yourself is practicing good old fashioned self care. And we talked a little bit about that earlier in the video. And I do want to add, I'm not talking about bubble baths and tea, although we love those things and those things are important. I am talking about getting outside, touching grass, spending time with the people who love you and you love, and the people that just make you feel good. So, especially when we talk about like the economy, I think it's okay to stay in once in a while. Order some pizza, like I just did this last night. Ordered a big pizza, sat on the floor, watched a movie, fell asleep in the middle of it with a good company. I'm even embarrassed to admit this, but I was someone who thought hanging out with my friends always had to be this big, glamorous time. So, brunch, dinner, trips, and like those are a good time, right? So, in this season, it is okay to switch it up. You can have some nights or days in, you can go for a coffee, the park, obviously, trips, travel, dinner, all of the things, but like as long as you're spending time with your people, and if they're really your people, they will be understanding if you're like, hey, I have some other things I have to handle right now. Let's just get a coffee, or like, let's just get a pizza, let's just hang out. And then there's the opposite of that. So, of course, spend time with your community, with your partner, with your family, yes, but make sure you spend time with yourself. And I'm not talking about so much the mental stuff because we kind of touched on that before. I mean, actually date yourself, actually go out to eat with yourself, do the things that you would do with friends, a partner, or family by yourself. Like, I remember going to the movies by myself for the first time. Like, that was just awkward. Okay, it was a little awkward, but then after a while, I'm like, you know what? I kind of do like this cozy vibe, especially if you find a nice theater, like with a recliner seat. You have your little snack, your little popcorn, you watch the movie, you have a good time. Like taking yourself out just on unlocks a level of independence that I cannot explain. So, yeah, make sure to do that as much as you can. Or maybe, like I said, you can't really go out right now. Make yourself a nice meal or get your favorite snack, binge watch a show you haven't seen in years. Like I started watching like The Walking Dead and 911 randomly, and just having my snack, being cozy in my PJs, like it is such a vibe. And I think we take all of these things for granted when we're going through it. And it's valid, right? Because the situation is what it is. But for me, I feel the most alive and bright when I hang with my people and, like, obviously, when I spend that time with myself. Yeah, I love a lot of me time. But I think now I'm in a season where I appreciate me time and I understand that in order to get through all of this chaos, I can only focus on myself. And maybe that is being a little selfish. Obviously, don't be super mean about it, but it's so important to put yourself first and choose yourself because we already have so much going on. And like, you cannot pour into other people if your cup is empty. So, the last point that I wanted to touch on today is the fact that things will only become clear after you move, after you do the thing. For example, applying for a job or with creating content, writing, whatever it is you are doing, you have to have systems in place, meaning steps that you follow to get you from the beginning to the end. And it's tricky for me to talk about because, again, everyone's situation is different. Like, there's no room for, if it sells, it sells, or, if they call me back, they call me back. Like, no, you're going to get the sale, you're going to get the call back because you have your systems in place, because you're organized, because you're consistent. These are conversations that I have with myself, these are conversations that I have with my clients. You have to have that self belief. You legitly have to give yourself the time to think things through, right? So, work through it in therapy, journal, meditate, whatever it is you have to do, and then you need to decide because there's only so much talking, there's only so much waiting that we can do. And I'm not saying every day is going to be easy, right? But at the same time, what is within your control? You. You're within your control. Your body, your mind, your habits. That's all we can control. Everything else will have to be figured out in its own timing, okay? If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you resonated with anything I said in the video, comment down below. I'll meet you down there. Also, make sure to check my description. I'll have my other socials, my blog. We're going to get through this together, guys. Let's just woosah. Yeah, we'll talk in the next video.